All right, it is Thursday, February 25th, and this is the Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership, and it is 6:04 p.m. Welcome, everyone. We do have a new member, so welcome, Kathy.
Thank you.
You actually can see all of our names, I think. So
I can.
But do you want to just introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. So I'm Kathy Harrison. My husband and I moved here with our daughter Phoebe not quite 2 years ago. We had a farm in Covington, Barefoot Farm, and very, very active there, planning board and tons of other stuff. My husband got sick, and I had a daughter I'd been homeschooling, and we needed high school for her. Easthampton had the best special ed program around, so we landed in Easthampton. We sold the farm, and our kids bought us a townhouse, and here we are. So yeah, I'm really interested in this. I've been following the Strong Towns movement for a while, and this sort of melds nicely with that. So anxious to see how I can be useful.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
We are a advisory committee. So we advise the planning department or the mayor's office sometimes, or city council or other committees. We don't have any real power, but we have a lot of professional housing and fair housing folks on the committee, which we're really lucky. I think all of us have some background in the subject, which is really great. And so we do a lot of advocacy, work on different projects. We've been pretty successful in getting some things done over the last, 10 or so years. So welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I should say, so my background really, I still do a lot of work with Department of Social Services. I'm a writer, and I do a lot of their trainings and a lot of advocacy work for families who are impacted by the department, as well as for children who've been impacted by foster care. And I worked for years for the Hampshire Community Action Commission. And so my roots are sort of in here. And we work a lot now with the food pantry.
Well, I am an employee of Community Action Pioneer Valley, which
are,
I guess, what Hampshire Community Action became. And Jackie's been on the board there for many years. So
well, I was back in the day, I actually helped open the classroom at Northampton High School, which gives you some idea of how long ago that was.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
So on our agenda tonight, do you want me to share my screen? Can I do it?
So
See it?
I just got an email from Jane Locklear from Valley CDC, and she's might be joining us if she gets the invite.
Oh, okay.
The Zoom link. I just sent it to her.
I was gonna say, are you gonna send it to her?
Seeing if she can figure it out on her own.
All right, so this is our agenda. The first order of business is approve the minutes that Brad so graciously typed up for us for January. Does anybody have any edits, comments, anything to add? I thought they looked great. All right, does someone want to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I can make a motion to approve.
I will second.
Do I need to third it, or we just vote?
Now we just vote. I have to do a roll call. Brad?
Aye.
Kate?
I vote. I have a quick question though that's very essential. Is there a button on one's keyboard that you can unmute? Very far into the pandemic to not know this, but
yeah. So if you, I'll just preface, this is on a Mac, so I don't know if it'll work for you, but if you hold down the spacebar button,
Yeah.
it should unmute, and then when you let go, it'll remute you again.
What an awesome tip.
I did not know that.
I was gonna say, do you want me to go get my second grader? Because I'm pretty sure he knows how to do that. Did it work?
Yes, it did. Yes. I was like, I keep getting myself jammed up on. This is the best thing I've learned all week. Thank you.
Bar none. Brad, I'm going to share it with my board, my elderly board. I can't wait.
Oi,
All right, wait, Jackie, did you vote?
I need to abstain because I wasn't here at that meeting.
Okay. All right, and I am a aye. So meeting notes approved. I will send them off to Barbara. Thank you, everybody. All right, I do not like having this agenda on my screen shared because I can't see all of your faces. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I think I'm going to say hi to Ashley, who joined us. Hi, Ashley. And Jane from Valley CDC. All right, Jane, are you just visiting us or do you have something you want to talk about?
Yeah, sorry to crash the party, but I'm kind of hitting my learning curve in my new role here and wanting to join meetings. And I am very curious about the city council meeting. And I figured y'all would be talking about that. So I'm just here to listen in and learn. And if there's time, I might say a little bit about Donna and I are talking about, what you all might be interested in terms of our homeownership program. So
Great, thank you. So I did want to talk about what happened at the city council meeting last week. And so actually several of us were there. Kathy, I think, was there. Brad was there. Jackie was there. Oh, Jackie put the agenda in the chat. That was so helpful. Thank you. So, I mean, someone else can talk about this. I don't have to talk about it. What happened at the meeting last week and how great it was. Anyone have a
Well,
Jackie?
I was, our Judy Barrett, the consultant, did a really great job of going over the housing production plan. And I just love the fact that and I said this at the end of our portion of the meeting, but she's such a great educator so that folks who don't know anything about affordable housing, when they listen to her, it starts to make a little bit more sense. So that was awesome. And I felt really glad about that. And then the city councils was really supportive of everything of approving the plan. And the even better part of that was that Councilor Tom Peak really threw down the gauntlet and challenged the city council members to be active about getting some things done that are in that plan. And that, he's spoken to me and I think to you too, Jana, on his concerns and what he wants to do with housing. And that's so great. And just to have him really call out, like, this is a priority in our city, let's get it done, I, of the people on this committee, have served the longest. And it was so exciting to hear that. I was a little verklempt, actually.
I was thinking the same thing. I've been on the housing partnership since 2008. And the landscape I think that the city in general and the planning department and even the mayor's office has all been supportive of affordable housing, but that's not been the case of city council. And so to hear almost all of the city councilors be supportive, and especially, Councilor Zarrett and Councilor Peak and, others really want to do something was really exciting. And it seemed like, just a really exciting time to actually get some things done. So it was good.
People are excited about zoning.
Yeah.
zoning's a hot topic.
I mean, we talked about it for I don't know, almost 2 hours. It was amazing, so it was a long meeting, but it was good. Brad or Kathy, do you guys want to add anything? I know you were both there.
No, I really feel like I am just getting my learning curve figured out here. But it was, I was there for a long time and I found it fascinating and engaging, and I wasn't bored, and I wasn't thinking, oh, when is this going to be over? There was so much good information. I have pages and pages of notes.
Yeah, I'll just kind of echo, what Jackie was saying. It's really great to have the work that we're all doing be honored the way that Councillor Peak really kind of, framed it for us. And just that, the approach that Judy took really, it did kind of dispel a lot of the myths or misconceptions about what affordable housing is. And, I at least felt that all of the extra information around our community demographics, you could see that the city council was really appreciative of the amount of detail and information that she put into the report. So I think it went really well, way better than I thought it was going to. So just kind of echoing what you said, Kathy, right? It actually was interesting to listen to everything. Zoning laws can be pretty boring sometimes. So, it was really great.
Jamie, do you have anything to add? Anything else we should?
I was just pleased to hear how jazzed the city councilors were about making some progress towards the goals that needed political capital, political will, the zoning, the tough zoning changes, looking at, even just talking about getting rid of single family zoning. There was some at least there's a desire to look into that, I'm just pleased with the makeup of the council right now and how they're taking these issues seriously. And also I'll add that the other day I got a phone call from a resident who was upset about the rental assistance program and why we're funding that. And I actually used some of the data in the report, that one of our, something like 800 of the 1,300 renters who are making less than 80% AMI are cost burdened. And this is, by the end of the conversation, she was all on board and was going to promote it to her coworkers who are making minimum wage and all this. So I think that without that up-to-date data, maybe I would have been able to convince her, but maybe not. But it was, going back to the city council meeting, that was really good.
I really appreciated too, though, when Councillor Derby was kind of like gave them all a reality check. Like, okay, guys, you're really excited about this. Just remember that it's going to be really terrible and it's going to be controversial, and you should be, buckle up, because if you want to get rid of single family zoning, like that's going to bring a lot of people out. So I thought it was I appreciated that he mentioned that, because I think several people were like pretty like jazzed up and excited, and it's not easy. And so it is a reminder that it's going to be a challenge to change some of the zoning, and all the other things that are in the plan. So I thought it was good. All right. Well, Jamie's comment is actually a nice segue to, I wanted to give a brief update on what's, go ahead.
Sorry, just one quick question. And then just for the notes, what would be the next process here for the housing production plan?
Great question.
Do you want to take that, Jen, or do you want me to?
No, you can go. You can do it.
So we need to take this plan and then send it to the state for approval. Once it's finalized and approved, it becomes active, and we can then use it. It's adopted by the city council, but if DHCD has any changes that they would need to see, it could come back. And so that process, Judy is working with the mayor and Jeff to get that submitted.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And what is the agency, the state agency that it goes to?
Goes to the Department of Housing and Community Development.
That's what, okay.
Yeah, and well, anybody on the call, but stop us if we start using lots of acronyms and you need a reminder about what they all mean. So we often say things like DHCD and, you know, just assume that everybody knows what we're talking about. So always interrupt. I wanted to give a really brief update on the Easthampton rental assistance program. So I think everybody knows this by now, but I work at Community Action and we're the administrator of the rental assistance. Just as an FYI, I did file a disclosure with the city council regarding my role on both the housing partnership and in this project that was approved by the city council a couple weeks ago. So everyone is aware that I'm working on, I work at the agency. But just to give you a brief update of what's happening, I don't have tons of data. I will tell you that since February 1st, we've received 77 phone calls from Easthampton residents. It's not just about the rental assistance program. I can't exactly filter my call log very well to tell you, but it's about, they could be calling about all kinds of things. A lot of them are calling about the rental assistance program. We've got, of the 77, 27 people got appointments with staff to do the application over the phone, which is how we're doing it now because we're still working remotely. And it looks like there are 8 applications or appointments that have happened and applications that are like in process. One that's been approved. So I will talk to you, Jamie, next week about how to we need some money. And then one that's been denied. And so, just so you're aware, our denial process is if the person is denied, then they can appeal that decision. And so they appeal it to me. So I'm not there's a woman, Dana, who's the supervisor of the program. So she's the one who makes the decisions about who's approved and who's denied. And then if they appeal that decision, they appeal it to me directly, and because I'm her supervisor. So I have one appeal. And so it seems to be rolling along. There was a lot of social media activity last week. Some of you may have seen. And there's been some Community Action had some posts that a bunch of us shared about the program. There is still some more marketing to do. I'm hoping to get to that next week. And I think that's about it for now. I don't know if anyone has any specific questions or any specific data you'd want me to be able to report on in future meetings. I'm happy to try to gather data that's helpful to you.
I would love to know, Jana, if this is a thing that you can collect, if you can let us know, not only so for the folks who use the rental assistance program, what else are they being connected to? Not individually, obviously, but
yep,
in the aggregate.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I could do that.
And that's me as an Easthampton Housing Partnership member and as a board member of Community Action Pioneer Valley. Of interest to me in both ways.
Yes.
Kate, you're muted.
Kate, you're muted.
You're still muted.
If you're going to use the space bar, you have to hold it down the entire time, which doesn't work for people who talk with their hands.
Oh, well, forget the space bar thing, man. That's forget it. I was just space barring. This is not a request, it's just a discussion point. I mean, it does seem like a good opportunity to get a sense of, this is like a moment where I think that hopefully landlords will love us, right? It feels like a kind of landlord connection moment, because landlords should love us because we're helping them, right? Like realistically. So I'm just wondering if there's any way that we can get a sense of landlord response to the advertisement of this program. So it's a discussion point, not a specific request.
I'm not convinced that landlords actually love these programs. maybe I'm biased, but I tend to find that, I mean, at least what I'm seeing in my work is that they are sometimes, in fact, we sometimes have trouble getting them to accept the money from these programs because they worry that the person's going to fall behind again. And then I mean, I don't know, Jana, maybe you have a different take on this, but this is just what I've seen from my work is that we face a fair amount of resistance actually from landlords.
I'm wondering, Ashley, if that's small landlords or big landlords.
I think it's more from smaller landlords.
Yeah.
Is what I would say, which I think is more what, I mean, again, Jana knows this better, but I think that's more what we'd see or what I would expect. Oh, I don't know if you all can hear me.
We can hear you, you're just frozen.
Okay. That's more what I would expect to see. I mean, Easthampton has a few large landlords, but I would say it's more smaller folks anyway. I don't know, Jana, what your take is on that. I don't know if that's just my
no, I don't think it's just you.
Cynical.
I mean, from Community Action's perspective, we tend to get pretty good response from landlords overall, but I have heard from community legal aid working, especially if you're working with tenants who owe a lot of money, that they have some landlords that are just saying, I don't want the money, I just want the person out, I don't want to do this anymore. And so we haven't run into that quite as much, but I think it's true that it really depends on the tenant and like what their payment history is. And if the person hasn't really paid in a year, some landlords are just, they're done. They don't even, you could give them $10,000 and they still don't want it. So I've definitely heard that from Jen Derringer at Legal Aid. I do agree in Easthampton, we will probably see more small landlords. We did get a few phone calls. I can see in the call logs that from landlords calling and asking about the program, which is good because hopefully then they'll refer their tenants.
So maybe I should be more, I mean, this is all very helpful, but maybe I should be very more specific. I think Easthampton does not have the most open and fair larger landlords, right? So I was specifically thinking of A to Z, Valley Real Estate, Wayfinders is already okay. What is that, Pine Grove? That it would be lovely if they started to, so it was the big landlords in particular that a small landlord is an important person, but a small landlord doesn't really help with fair housing moving forward, right? They probably only have 2 units, 2 to 10. And it's the bigger landlords that have the biggest impact. So that was just my curiosity, and maybe they don't care. Certainly big landlords like Wayfinders is pretty happy with most programs. So I'm not so worried about Wayfinders. I'm more concerned about.
Wayfinders runs a couple of the rental assistance programs too. So, but I've talked.
Yeah, but the 2 departments are. Yeah.
Anecdotally, I've talked to a few landlords in town who are excited, who have, they're not giant, but they're not the small mom and pop ones, and they are excited about it. And there was someone whose family is part of A to Z was on this board for years and years. So hopefully, they'll be happy to have this, but who knows? We'll wait and see what Ashley tells us going forward.
Not that I'm looking at a small subset, so it's not like I have like the representative take on that.
But it's a take, which is good.
Yeah.
So again, I have weird ideas and I think out loud, and so sometimes this could be dumb, but I'm just wondering. Again, I actually have a plan in my mind. I'm wondering, have you done the outreach to the big landlords yet, Jana?
I haven't, to be honest, I've not.
So I would be willing to do it, and or someone else, if someone else wanted to do it. And there's a specific reason, which is, I think it's right. We've been talking about for a while. We don't have great landlords necessarily. So most of the region looks for, right, there's a problem with kind of accessing Section 8 with landlords that are kind of non-discriminatory. And when I say most of the region, I mean Northampton and Amherst. And there's always an effort to kind of change that for a lot of landlords, and it hasn't been so successful in any of those regions, although I would probably say maybe Northampton a little bit better. So I just feel like, why not maximize on this moment and connect a face? And so I'd be happy to do the outreach with the hope that if we came back with another ask to these landlords, like to participate in, for example, like Amherst has done landlord outreach and panels. So I don't know what other people think about that, but just I think it might be, for the landlords that might like it, why not have a connection around it, if that makes any sense to people, or people might not agree.
I mean, I think there's value in connecting the landlord to the idea that, like, this idea came from the city, came from the housing partnership and the CPA committee, you know, so that they sort of get like a frame of reference of like why, you know, because I think you're right. Like, I think if they find the program valuable, then they might find the work that the city's doing valuable. And then later on, they might be able to help advocate for something or show up to something that we care about. So I think it's worth a try. I mean, I don't know how successful we'll be, but Jane, did you want to, you had your hand up a minute ago.
Well, I just wanted to comment that all the insights that and experiences that you're mentioning, they're all true. So there's a little bit of a case by case. Oftentimes residents who get to a place where they need that much assistance, there's a number of issues with them. It's not just paying their rent. So there is that tie where sometimes landlords will just be like, you know what, that means I have to deal with them for another 8 months until they come back to you. And a lot happens between now and then. At the same time, I think during COVID, it has been a lifeline for landlords to just, you know, keep on top of receivables as much as possible and keep the income coming in. So I think any outreach and any, you know, I just think it's a good idea. But the other piece I want to mention is that landlords have to do a lot of work and oftentimes have to assist in the whole process. There's a lot of hand-holding. So it does take a lot of time, but it's worth it when your balances get high. So I just wanted to let you know that my experience over time tells me that a lot of folks love it. And a lot of times it's used really well for people in crisis situations, but the chronic non-payers will have that experience you all were just describing.
Yeah. Thank you.
I want to just put out, so I did, as part of the initial sort of, in between when this city funded it and when we actually got the application heard over, I kept a long list of people who had reached out to me. Then when applications opened, I sent them the information. So that included Valley Apartments, two landlords who I believe are just like smaller, small type, calling about specific tenants that they had, A to Z Properties, and the Amherst Community Connections. So if that's helpful information, at least with Valley Apartments and A to Z Rentals, you know, they specifically reached out regarding the program. So
Great. I will tell you one funny thing that was not really funny. My staff didn't think it was funny. So the mayor's office sent the press release to Telemundo, like New England. which is great. They did a whole story on it. And then the phone, for 2 days, the phone did not stop ringing with Spanish people calling from all over New England. Not one person from Easthampton, New York, Hartford, Lawrence. And my staff were like, why are all these people calling? Where are they? He would say like, where? And I only have 2 bilingual staff. So they'd leave all these messages in Spanish. So then they'd have to wait for someone else to call them back. And then, so finally one staff figured out, sent me the clip of, which was in Spanish from like the newscast. And I emailed Jamie, I'm like, who sent it to Telemundo? P.S. It did not result in any Easthampton people calling.
Yeah, I apologize for that. I only saw the list of who the press release go to after your experience and realized that there were a lot of, it wasn't just local news organizations. It went out to the Boston area. It went out to like NPR and things like this. So
the upside is that those folks who lived, at least in Massachusetts, were able to get connected to the local agency that could help them with the rent, because that's what they referred them to. But when they called from sometimes we get calls from people who live in Easthampton, New York, or those out of state ones were more challenging. But.
Yeah, at least you realized that right away. Definitely one of my, first year in the job here, I got a call from someone in Easthampton, New York, who was convinced that they needed zoning help. And, I spent a good 30 minutes on the phone with them before I realized that, they just happened to live on the street that is the same name and Easthampton, just we couldn't find the house number and,
All right, any other thoughts about this? Yeah, go ahead, Kate.
I'm just wondering actually if maybe the path of least resistance might be the best. Jamie, I don't know if you've got any time, but if those folks called you, have you already returned their calls?
Oh yeah, I sent them, I connected them with when the flyer that Jana put together for the program. So where I had their emails, I sent them the flyer, and where I didn't have emails, I called everyone on my list to let them know. So yeah.
Cool.
But if there are other, I know, Kate, that at one point you had reached out to some landlords for information about maybe who was behind in rent.
Yeah, but I did the big guys. Jackie did I think she did A to Z. So I had sent Jana a couple informal stuff.
Like lists of back to the folks I reached out to and send the flyer to them as well.
Yeah.
If you haven't already.
The flyer, if you don't have the flyer easily accessible, it is on our website on the main page of the easthamptonma.gov.
Yep, I just pulled it off of the Community Action website too, to send to, I had Dina Fine from the Housing Court, I've known for 100 years. So she reached out to me and asked me to send information. This was over the summer when we were just talking about it. And she asked me to send information to the clerk in the Housing Court. So I have sent that as well.
Thank you.
And Kate, I can connect with you offline about, landlord stuff if you want it. Okay. Okay. Well, I did want to give, the other thing we were going to talk about is priorities from the housing production plan, but I did want to give Jane an opportunity to update us on what's going on with Valley CDC before we do that.
Sure, thanks. Donna is doing a first-time homebuyers webinar tonight, so not able to join us, but we had talked with Easthampton prior to me joining Valley about possibilities of what might be a good fit to do a little bit more focused work with y'all for homebuyers. We are anticipating foreclosures being on the horizon, and we are also broadening our referral services to make sure that our first-time home buyers are also getting referrals around rental assistance and other resources in the region, so that if they're not able to buy a home, they're able to make sure that they stay in their housing. So I just wanted to introduce that point, and if we could be on the agenda for next month, then Donna and I could come and we could just bring up a couple of points for discussion and see what y'all think and just take it from there.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Great. Appreciate it.
Jane, I don't know. I always have a big mouth, but tonight it's just like really big. I'm just wondering, and it's not pre-discussed, I'm wondering if Valley is interested, has had any discussions. I know you guys are developing the Amherst property. Is there any discussion of any development in Easthampton? Anything on the horizon?
We are here for you.
So what would be,
let's find a site.
right, that's what I was gonna say. We don't, you know, you're not here that often, so I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, what would you guys be looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. And Laura Baker and I could come. You know, she works a lot with the folks in Easthampton, so we're always kind of have a feeler out for what might be on the horizon. All three of us could come next month if you wanted us to be sort of a little Valley topic, and we could fill you in on any thinking and what might look good there. So we have a line for you in our pipeline. We're just waiting to, you know, figure out the right time and place and what's possible, because we would love to work with Easthampton.
Awesome. There was that one there was that property on Everett.
So
actually,
sorry, the one that was on Everett across from the senior living was, I think we kind of determined we needed about 40 units to make it economically feasible, and with wetlands and setbacks to conservation areas, there just wasn't enough room on that site to make it worthwhile. So we ended up passing on that opportunity because it just wasn't going to work out for us.
but there's that other piece of land on Everett Street across from where our former city planner used to live.
That former gas station?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know that the city still,
we don't want that.
It feels stalled. You don't want that? DEP has been there once already.
Gas stations are very expensive, but yes.
Yeah.
Habitat had
remediated
it for a little while to do, but
Yeah.
they just weren't, they were taking way too long to move on it. And I think some CPA money was already used to do some cleanup on that site. So it's not as horrible as it sounds.
Okay,
Yeah.
good to know. And I am just
it was fully remediated,
curious.
but it's yeah, I don't know what happened to that. I know that the city council was trying to, the former mayor was trying to just sell it back for market rate housing. No one wanted to.
Title, I think there was a title problem in the
There was
end.
a title issue with it because it was taken tax title, but not all of the ears were found and noticed, and it became a bit of a quagmire. So last I heard it was still up for it was like going on auction. So
is this the old house that was run down with like all the tree overgrowth on Everett Street? Is that where you're talking?
Yeah.
So
There's a big X on it.
yeah, so that's just within the past couple of weeks, there's been a lot of activity over there. So someone did something. They've clear cut all the trees all the way back, and they're starting to do repairs on the house. So I'm not sure who did that, but just that there is something going on there.
Maybe it's sold.
Yeah.
Jana and Jackie might know the answer to this question, but since I don't, and I don't know if Jackie, Ashley, or Kathy or Brad know this, what could this committee do that would be helpful in identifying land? And maybe you could also talk about price ranges, because I was actually surprised by the cost of the Amherst property that you guys, you know, there was a neat deal where CPA gave some money. So maybe if you could just speak for a moment about that. And Jackie's saying most of it's in the housing production plan. Well, that's the zoning stuff, but I'm saying how do So let me clarify. How is it that you're identifying properties? Are you looking to us for identifying properties, or would you go out and identify properties?
So the housing production plan did identify a number of properties. We also have our GIS system where we can look and see where properties are zoned properly and maybe not utilized. So underutilized. And I think most of those showed up in the 2014 plan or the and this current plan. So but those were sort of identifying properties where the city would want to encourage a 40B development. There are other locations where we may not want to encourage a 40B, but there might be good areas for housing development. So I think at the city council meeting, there was talk about the parcel next to Treehouse, which is not a great location for 40B development because it's just not near any services. It is near Treehouse, but it's not the best location, I think. So we did not include that location as a parcel where we would be encouraging a 40B development. And that is a city-owned land.
And I think too, Kate, like, the parcel on Everett Street, that not the former gas station site, but the other site, it seems like most of the time it's coming either through the planning department or the property owner reaches out to the mayor. And then, sometimes we find out about it, or, sometimes I think then the mayor would bring in Jane or Valley Seat and Laura to talk about it. So it seems like it doesn't necessarily come through us, but in most of those cases, like at least like sometimes I'm aware of it, or like we would then become aware of it as it starts to look like a real thing. The Parsons Village project, I mean, just for those of you who don't know that, which was Valley CDCs and Wayfinders, that was the housing partnership put out a RFP for housing, for affordable housing projects. It had $300,000 to spend, and it was just like kind of serendipitous that Valley was kind of already looking at that parcel and then applied for the money that we had to help with their pre-development. So, I mean, sometimes we're like, can be a little bit proactive, but it seems like most of the time the conversations are going either to Jeff or Jamie or to the mayor, and then sort of like come back around to the housing partnership, if that's helpful.
So
that's helpful.
So I was going to say, going back to the question about the 154 Everett Street, it did, looks like in November, it was sold to a developer for $105,000.
Who did it sell to?
Arrowwood Design and Construction, LLC.
Well, that doesn't tell me anything.
No.
Interesting. Well, so that'll be interesting to see what happens there, actually. I mean, unless it's just like one giant single family home, but otherwise, any new housing is good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially even if it's like two houses. Okay. Well, Jane, yeah, I think that'd be great if you could come. Our next meeting is in March.
Looks like also March 25th.
Thank you. At 6 o'clock. Yeah, we'd love to hear some ideas from Valley CDC.
Okay, that sounds great. I should bring Laura and Donna?
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's just a good time to check in, and we don't have to get in depth, but I think any questions or thoughts from y'all and hearing from us might prompt the next conversation. So
yeah,
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Would we want to see any other city staff at the meeting, or councilors or mayor or anyone like that?
Well, that's it. I mean, we could certainly, since the city council is so excited about affordable housing, we could invite the city, could tell the city council that Valid CDC is coming if they wanted to join us.
Maybe when we get the agenda together, I can forward it to city councilors and the mayor and Jeff, and just kind of let them know that this is going to happen. Because I imagine anything that that this committee is super excited about is going to need to like go through CPA for funding, or some sort of appropriation process that's going to involve city council and the mayor. So
because we don't have any power. That's fine.
Will you just refresh my recollection, Jamie, if you remember, is Cernak Fuel listed as a potential property? I know it's $1.5 million, but.
I don't think that it was. I think they
just because its location is ideal.
Yep. The old sorry, the Abashan, not Abashan.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about in downtown Northampton.
Manchester is on that list, I believe.
So is it possible to build like an apartment building right in the downtown where that building is?
Yep.
Oh, nice. Okay. I had wondered that just because I can't imagine what kind of business is going to go back into that location. So that's cool. That's good to know.
I have dreams of taking all of Union Plaza with Village Pizza, just bulldozing that, moving something closer to the street, and putting up 3 stories and having parking in the back.
Yes, we have that too. Scott and I have talked about that, Jackie. We have that dream.
I support that.
Sorry, I got confused. I was thinking Cernak Fuel is not on the list. It was they're under agreement, I believe, for another cannabis dispensary production thing. But the lot across the street, where the Tasty Top and the golf driving range is, that was on the list. It's actually even a larger parcel. And we had done some preliminary designs as part of this, sort of looking at like what could it hold, what could it be developed towards. And so at the back of the housing production plan, there are these 4 case studies that we put together, and hopefully we can get someone to act on them. But maybe it's something that the housing partnership wants to take on as trying to get those properties marketed, or they're all privately held. So that is always a complicating factor. It's not our land.
Right. And we also will have the surplus school buildings, you know, so that, is owned by the city. So we potentially could have more input there. And I think it's likely that one of those buildings will at least have some housing in it.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems the most plausible, right? I mean, especially since I feel like most old school buildings typically do get converted into apartments anyway. So it just, at least when I was looking at the housing plan, those looked like the easiest to sell to the entire community.
I think they're probably, I think Laura, if she was here, would tell us that they're probably very expensive to renovate. But yeah, I do think that, I think there was a strong desire from the community during those visioning sessions that housing be included in the plan for those buildings. So I'm hopeful that we'll see something.
Jane, I'm very ignorant on this part of development. Would there be any helpfulness in having Jeff join us and reviewing the properties listed in the housing production, the document? Is it?
Yeah, you were right.
Yeah, okay. I'm just spitballing, just, and if the answer is no, then no. I think Jane is not hearing. Oh,
You're asking.
muted.
Sorry.
No. Is there any benefit in having, no, it's late and I'm having a forgetfulness moment. Jamie, who's your boss?
Yeah.
Yeah. Attend the meeting that you're going to attend, and you bring some of your staff and we review some of the properties that are listed in the housing production plan. And if there isn't,
I think absolutely. I think I'm not, I mean, I would want to use Jeff's time wisely there.
Right.
And so I think to the points that I'm hearing from the committee, you know, it is more like who would be the right people to have in the room and what level of discussion will we be having? You know, I think Laura's pretty familiar with what's out there, and, you know, we'll be right in stride with you as soon as everything looks right. So I kind of would defer back to you all of the right folks to have in the room. If we're going to talk about specific properties or feasibility or whatnot, I don't want to put anybody on the spot on either side there. So, you know, I think if next week or next month, if we, well, tell you what I can do is, Jana, I'll reach out to you and with some thoughts maybe, and you can kind of tell us how to scale the conversation next month. And if you feel like, you know, we want to get into the meat of some stuff and that's the right timing for that, then y'all can invite Jeff.
I think it would be helpful to have Jeff and the mayor there, or at least at the minimum, I think it'd be helpful to have Jeff there.
Okay.
Just because, you know, if we start going down like what he's got more of an idea of what strategically the, you know, ways we want to go, and
yeah, and Laura, I know, worked with him on the plan.
Right. So I think it'd be helpful at the minimum to have him there. It might get unwieldy if we start to have a bunch of city councilors and you know, a lot of other people as well. So
Sure. Okay.
Well, between now and then we can think, you know, think strategically about what we want to cover and then figure out, right, like who should be.
That sounds good. I'll touch base with Laura tomorrow, and then we'll get in touch with you, Jana, and take it from there.
That sounds great.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So the last thing I wanted to I thought we could start a conversation. I don't think we need to finish the conversation tonight. It's just looking at the housing production plan and the priorities. You know, historically, I know the plan's not certified yet, but doesn't mean we can't start planning, like what are the things that we want to do. So this is, historically, we've used the housing production plan, you know, as a way to give focus to the housing partnerships, you know, activities for the year. So I thought we could start doing that tonight if folks feel up to it.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say that I love this group and I love that we don't have really long meetings. And I often attend the Amherst Affordable House Municipal Trust meetings and I mean, those people meet till like 9 o'clock at night. And I'm always like, my partnership would like have all left the room by now. Like nobody would still be at this meeting. I give an update on the Amherst rental project and like, I'll be the first person on the agenda and it's 8:30 and it's still going. I'm like, I'm still talking. So I'm always like, wow, you guys are really, my crew does not hang like this. They are done after 90 minutes, which is fine with me. I think we're all.
I'm actually going to be super short because I had my second COVID shot.
Oh.
And what I really need is tea and Tylenol. Oh, it has knocked me for a loop.
Yeah.
So will we be about another 30 minutes?
We will, but if you need to.
No, I've got 30 in me.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna try to share my screen again. see if I can find, can you see that? Okay, wait, now I gotta do this so you can, oh wait. Do this. So now, can you actually see it? And there's not like a black box over my.
No, we can see it. If you
Okay.
also, if it's easier for you, or if you're, you know, sometimes when I share my screen and have too many things open, my Zoom starts going funny. So you could also just, I can send the link or drop it in the chat if people want to open it on their own.
Oh, that's fine. Do people want to do that? Personally, I'd rather see your faces than the screen, but
Okay, yeah, that works for me.
okay.
All right.
Thanks, Jackie.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like I'm talking to myself, like I can't. I don't know what anyone's doing.
Explain to me the directions again. You're gonna give us something in the chat and we're gonna press
Yes.
on it?
I am
Okay.
going to drop in the chat the link in my, okay, the link to the housing production plan. There you go. So everyone can just click on it and open it themselves.
And we can still see each other if we want to. And
Right.
see the
Can you
thing.
tell I'm on Zoom all the time?
I am too, but I'm obviously not very good at it.
All right, and then what page is the section that we're
Oh.
looking for?
So it starts, that was a great question. It starts on page 55, so they're pretty far down.
Okay.
And these have, so these are the action items, the strategy type, the priority level, the level of complexity, and then who is responsible for it. And so there are some things already assigned to the housing partnership, which we could decide we, you know, want to work on now or not. So I don't know if people want to take a minute and just look through them if you haven't looked at them already.
I love that the item that says create a municipal housing trust fund is considered not complicated.
No, actually, John from Amherst sent Kate and I there's like a MHP like training. I know Kate's like, no, I don't want to do it.
But I said it politely.
You did say it very.
And it was just me, but you know.
Well, it's I mean, it's complicated.
We also don't have the money. I mean, they have the whole, like, I can never think of the words for it, but they get a lot of money for developers who opt out of
Payment in lieu of.
thank you. They get payment in lieu of, whereas we don't. So thank you, Jackie.
You have a new baby still, so you get to have baby brain as long as you need to.
Not really baby brain, but I appreciate, it's just my brain, but I appreciate you giving me a little flexibility about it.
Oh, you gotta milk the baby brain for as long as possible. Like if I could still claim it, but I think at 6, my youngest like doesn't quite count anymore.
I honestly don't think an affordable housing trust is totally impossible to do. So maybe that's one that I feel like we could at some point have a little subcommittee, which we've done before, but I think the political will is much we're in a much better place to make that happen if we thought it was a good idea. Because we could put CPA money in there that is already, that might make it a little bit easier. Because I think about properties like there was a property around the corner from me that had, trees growing out of the actually, Ashley, the house I'm talking about, and now it's a duplex, right? There were trees growing out of the garage gutter, literally. And so it was clearly abandoned. And so thinking about like being able to act quickly when something comes on the market that could potentially be flipped into affordable housing. Anyway, I'm babbling.
I'm into that if we want to prioritize, consider special legislation for tax incentives to encourage mixed income affordable, right? Because remember when John came to, I mean, one of the things he talks about is what's the purpose of your trust, right? And though it does do speediness, I feel like it would have more of a function if we were having a hard time with CPA. But CPA has been pretty supportive, and it's a pretty big pain in the butt to do a trust.
But right. But like you said, you'd have the money quickly. With CPA, we have to go to the CPA on a quarterly basis.
True. Yep.
And then it goes to city council, and then, it takes a lot longer. That's the only thing. And so you couldn't actually purchase something.
It's true. Yeah.
But
no, I think it's worth, I think it's always worth exploring. I do think figuring out do we need it? And, is it worth it would be, part of that discussion.
My sort of take on it is that it works really well when we have developers who are building 10 plus unit developments, but where most of our like new housing is single and two family, I feel like it's hard to, they would be probably exempted from the multifamily requirements anyways. And so we wouldn't actually see a lot of funds getting added to it other than through CPA, which, maybe that's a good way to go, but there might, we can also go to the CPA, and they have abilities to like move things more quickly for time sensitive situations. Just throwing some ideas out there, not to shoot it down, but
so one thing that's on here that's actually moving now is the thing about accessory apartments, which I admit I've not really been paying super close attention to, but I know, it's a big interest of the city. And I think Councillor Peak introduced something last week about, I don't know, I didn't stay for the entire rest of the meeting, but about accessory apartments.
So as part of the housing production plan, we did have Barrett Associates do she provided us with a model ADU ordinance that Jeff and I looked at and went back and forth on a little bit, and then that's the legislation that Tom Peak submitted. It doesn't significantly change what we have. It just makes them allowed by right as opposed to allowed by special permit, and increases the minimum, or it increases the maximum allowed square footage, as well as it raises the floor. So what we were proposing is that any ADU could be by right 900 square feet, and it could go up to 50% of the gross floor area of the existing residence. So if you had a 2,000 square foot house, you could get a 1,000 square foot ADU. So to make them a little bit more feasible. We often have these situations where someone comes in and they have a, 1,400 square foot ranch and they want to put on an ADU, and they find out that per zoning, they were limited to 400 square foot, and it just didn't make sense. And that then you have all the regulatory issues with going to the Zoning Board of Appeals just to get a special permit when you clearly meet all of the conditions. It was just trying to make this a little bit easier to get infill development. So hopefully that moves forward quickly.
How would we, I personally do support, changing zoning for that, but how would this group, in your imagination, Jamie or Jana, support that?
I mean, I think we would, I assume that whatever happened last week, it got bounced to some committee, some subcommittee. So we could go to the subcommittee and talk about why the housing partnership supports it. We could speak at when they comes before city council. And I imagine there could be people who don't support it. I don't know. I mean, people have all kinds of concerns about people building stuff in their neighbor's backyard. So, I think that's how I think we could publicly support it by speaking about it at the, and I think that would be a good thing. I mean, I think, it's a priority of the city, more housing is a good thing. I think, the EDIC, I know, has been particularly interested in helping people, maybe seniors particularly, find smaller, other places to live so that their house could be sold to another family, like kind of doing that, what's it called, churn. But so I think that's what our role could be in that, which I think would be good.
Yeah. And I will do my best to keep the partnership informed of when those hearings are going to be. Because the legislation it goes to the ordinance subcommittee and the planning board, who usually hold a joint public hearing to vote on these, and then it goes back to city council for a final approval vote.
And I would think it could take multiple meetings, right, Jamie?
Yeah, it depends on how much. It depends on how much discussion. If the planning board thinks what was proposed is good, and city council does too, when there's only people showing up to support it at those subcommittee hearings, then it'll go through pretty quickly. I don't think it's a super controversial amendment. There's been, over the years, there's just been a lot of people interested in doing something with the ADU ordinance. So I think it will have a lot of support. It's just making sure that the people who support it come out. As we've, as the partnership has noted before, it's hard to get the supporters out at whenever there's a proposal. So
Maybe easier now that it's on Zoom.
Yeah.
Jana and Jackie, how do you guys usually do this? Do you do popcorn style and then you guys vote on priorities? What have you done in the past?
Well, usually we're in person and we can write things down. Yeah, I mean, we're not really that formal. So I don't know if we vote on them, but we just sort of all agree, come up with some ideas. I mean, I would say, 2 or 3 would be a good start. I wouldn't suggest we come up with 17 things we really want to do this year. I think the accessory dwelling accessory apartment is kind of easy because it's actually being spearheaded by somebody else, and we can just say, yes, we support it and show up occasionally. I think that is a sort of an easy one. And then, maybe look at 1 or 2 others. And we don't have to decide tonight. If you guys want to think about it, we can talk about it, at another meeting. I mean, one that's not on here that Judy has suggested that we really look into is CHAPA's Municipal Engagement Program. And I had said I would reach out to Dana, and I forgot. The application the application round was closed, but So that's not on the priority list, but I do think it meets our other priorities of building a base of support around affordable housing. And so thinking about what that program is, and so I'm still willing to email Dana and get more information, and maybe someone from CHAPA, especially since it's via Zoom, could come and talk to us about it at some point. I think Judy seemed to think that we would have like a collaborative application with another community would be seemed like something that CHAPA would be more interested in. So I just don't know enough about the program, but I personally think that should be one of our priorities, because I do think it would be important to continue to build a coalition of people who support affordable housing.
I very much support that as being a priority. I think it also, I don't have the expertise around that. And so I feel like if we participate in their municipal engagement, it will just give us a roadmap, or that would be my hope.
I think it's getting the technical assistance, and it's just like having someone help us actually do it. I mean, I think, volunteer boards, it's hard for us, we get a lot done. I mean, I am very proud of us, but it takes a long time and it's a lot of work, and we all have other things going on. So I think that's been one of the biggest roadblocks on that priority, is just finding the time. And I think having some TA around it would be awesome.
So I'm trying to summarize in the chat to make it so that people can kind of see the things. It seems like what we need to do is state the thing we think we might want to work on, and then say what that means for us as a committee. So that's why I just wrote accessory dwelling units. We support changes at meetings. Like, that's what our role is. So say one more time, the CHAPA, is it an application that we have to put into them?
I believe it's an application, and it's a technical assistance program that they offer around building a coalition of support in your community for affordable housing. And last time I looked, the application was closed, like they weren't accepting new people. But I do think it would, and I don't know, again, maybe it's not, I don't know if it's the housing partnership that applies, or it's the planning department that, we'd have to, but I'm willing to reach out to Dana and see maybe if somebody could come and talk to us at a future meeting, maybe in April, just so that we get a sense of like what it is. And, CHAPA, I used to work there, but CHAPA does a nice job working statewide, but Western Mass has always got to make sure that they don't forget about us and only provide TA to Eastern Mass communities.
So I feel like that gives us two things that we seem to agree on, and Ashley wants to say something, and then I'll finish my thought.
I didn't mean to cut you off, Jackie.
That's okay.
Oh, I just was, I'm not formally on the housing partnership, so I don't know whether I should be throwing my my 2 cents in, but just in terms of, what, looking at this list and what feels the most impactful. I don't know if you all can hear me. I'm frozen again.
We can hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you, we just can't see you.
All right. But I'm sure I'm picking the most controversial and complex, but the eliminating single family housing and the multifamily housing without a special permit, those feel like the ones that are really actually going to have the biggest impact. And especially when we think about ending segregative effects in our area, those are really the ones that have the potential to create the most diversity and really open up the city the most. So, and I know, again, I'm not on the partnership, and I'm pointing out the probably most difficult and controversial ones, but I just wanted to put in a plug for those.
I am on the partnership, and we can pretend that I just said that. I agree with you, actually. I think that those would be really difficult, and I think we'd probably have to spend a lot of time outlining what exactly our role would be. And so, not that I don't agree with that, but one of the reasons why I think the municipal partnership might be so helpful is my hope for it is that it might also give us some more tools to help with some of the other goals, but I might be too hopeful about the municipal partnership stuff. Because I think what our ability to help on those are a little limited now is my only concern.
I do think though that, I mean, right, there's some really big ones, right? So there's those, I mean, there's one, I don't even know if this is on the list, but like I have a real issue with the parking requirements for multifamily housing because I think they're ridiculous. Yep. So I think that there's, I think we need to figure out sort of, right, what's our role and like who do we go to say like, hey, this is a priority in the plan and we really want the city to do this. So like, let's figure out who's the right person, and maybe it's the planning department, or maybe we get a city councilor to take on one of these things. But I think we can be the, like, I think we are going to have to be the voice that says, hey, remember this, we got to work on some of these things. And I think last time we worked on the things that we had control over because we felt like that was a more doable thing. So what I kind of heard from the counselors and what I'm sort of excited about now is that I think we also can have a voice on the things that we don't have control over, but sort of be more of a squeaky wheel about those things. Like we might not be able to rewrite the single family zoning or you know, bylaws, but I think that we can be a little bit pushier than maybe we've been in the past about getting some of these things done. So I think you're right. I mean, we do need to think big, Ashley. So I appreciate that you've mentioned that. And it's why you need to be a member of the housing partnership and fill out your application. So yeah, I don't know how other people feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, one thing for us to also consider is the kind of like political feasibility of some of these things, and kind of harnessing the momentum that we have right now. I think if we started on like one complex item on this list with some that are not complex or that are kind of easy wins, I think that puts more wind in our sails to be able to demonstrate to City Council that, you know, look, these are things that are getting done in the moment right now. And I think that'll just get more buy-in, whereas if we tied ourselves into something that is harder to obtain and takes a little bit longer, we might lose some of that headwind that we have right now. So I would say try to get a couple of these things that are really easy, even if they aren't, I guess, the most helpful right now. But just having the image of getting some political wins here, I think would help us out in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't, you know, I think I agree totally with what you just said, Brad. I think having two that feel like doable and one that feels like it's a long shot, but we really are into it, let's do that. I think it wouldn't hurt either for us to each take a look, like to spend some time looking at all of the ones that we're tagged with and kind of thinking through, what does that look like? Like, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have our own list that just says, here are the things we're tasked with. What does that mean for, like, what does our participation in those look like? What is our to-do list? And then as things get done, we can knock them off and move another one. But then we don't have to keep having the conversation about, well, what's our role in that?
Yeah, and I'll just to piggyback, I think that we should definitely start on one of the more complex ones as well, just because the more complex ones take the most amount of time. So, you know, the best we can do a balancing act between those two, I think, you know, is the best strategy going forward.
I would just sort of point out that I think that there's a lot of momentum right now. I think that the city councilors are kind of, they're talking about this and they want to see some housing related things. So it might be the time to go big. Like, I think that the momentum is there if the partnership wanted to try for some of the bigger items.
Yeah. And I just think if the partnership doesn't, I don't know who does. Like I don't think there's anyone else that's going to step up and do it. I mean, I totally agree with what you all are saying about picking a couple that are doable, to, you know, keep the wind in the sails, but also like no one else is going to be pushing for these bigger things if it's not this group, I don't think.
That is true.
Guys, I'm gonna say goodnight and go find my ibuprofen.
No problem.
I'm very glad to have a vaccine, but
Yeah.
Thanks
Ooh,
for
so-
coming, Happy.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Kathy, and I'm glad
See
that
you
you
now.
got the vaccine. I'm glad you survived the pandemic, so good for you.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Bye-bye.
see you
Next month.
soon.
I'm thinking also, even though I did have the vaccine, because I always only have like a 90-minute span, I kind of like Jackie's suggestion of, I mean, homework is hard because sometimes I don't do it, but the suggestion of really looking a little bit more and outlining what that would look like, because I think it also makes it a little easier to imagine it, right? So not that we have disagreement, right? But like there's differing opinions about prioritizing. It might be easier to decide if we actually have more of the details of what that would look like, right? So on the big ones, I think that's also really hard to imagine. Like, what exactly are we going to do to eliminate single family only districts, allowing duplexes? Not saying that we can't. So I'm wondering if maybe we want to, I think it was Jackie's suggestion, to take a little time, look at the tasks that we all think are important and just outline a teeny bit how we would imagine the partnership participating, because I think it might be easier to prioritize with that understanding.
Or even taking the lead. So, you know, thinking about that one where there's a push to change the zoning. So, right, like, so where are the places that we start having that conversation first? And that's, I think, what our job is to start moving the conversation. Because in the end of the day, like, we're not the people who are going to be changing that zoning and voting on adopting new zoning, but we sure can push the conversation.
And Jana, my only thing about the municipal partnership, and I'm wondering if maybe we could have Judy, or I'm happy to contact Judy. I have these hopes for the municipal partnership, like, and sometimes if you have a big project, you kind of want to make it successful, so you want to wait for the help to come, but I don't know if the hopes are faulty. So I'm just wondering, well, you're following up on it, but you know, because my thought is the big tasks would be helpful to have as many tools in our tool belt for, but maybe I'm just being too optimistic about how helpful the municipal partnership would be.
I mean, I think there's some limited information on CHAPA's website.
Yeah, it doesn't say that much, so I'm like, I don't know what this thing is.
It doesn't say that much. So, I mean, that's why I was going to just see if Dana could give us a little bit more information. And then we could also, you know, the other thing we could do is then also talk to some of the, if we really wanted to do it and we really wanted to apply, we could also talk to some of the other communities that have participated to see if it was, you know, I really don't know anything about it other than Judy's mentioned 3 times that she thinks that we should look into it. So I you know, I feel like it's worth it, but we might
So
decide.
sorry, guys. I have a little person who I have to put to sleep. I will, if we have any homework, let me know. I gotta run.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that.
Take care. Bye.
We all run out of steam at around 7:30.
Yeah, it's time.
Yeah, I'm just listening along and learning more about what y'all do, and it's good to get to know you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jane, for coming. It's really nice to have you here. Yeah. So, I mean, I like Jackie's idea of like, look at it. I mean, the plan is dense and it's long, but, you know, look at the priorities and really, if we think about what these really might look like for the housing partnership. And again, it's a process. The plan's good for 5 years, so we don't have to do everything right away. But and then have Valley CDC come back next month, and you know, soon, maybe someday we'll be back in person, though not until at least after June 30th, because the municipal building is still closed. All right. Does anyone else have anything else? Any other updates or announcements or anything?
I think so.
My cat did not eat my dinner.
Oh, did you get to eat your dinner?
It's waiting for me.
Okay.
It's all good. I was sneaking some bites, and my dog is down here, just down here waiting to see if I drop anything.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. It's nice to see you all. Have a good evening.
You as well.
Bye.
We need a motion to adjourn, or are we good?
Oh, sorry. And I didn't say what time it was. It's 7:25 p.m. and we are adjourning. I don't think we need a motion to adjourn, do we?
We're not that formal.
And I don't think we have quorum anymore anyway.
And we don't
Everybody
have
left.
anybody's left. Okay. All right. Good night.
All right, thanks everybody. See you soon.
Bye.